Story 1. The locked room. The room was already locked when we arrived. At first, I didn't think much about it. The Airbnb listing had mentioned private storage space upstairs, so when I noticed the door at the end of the hallway with a keypad lock on it, I assumed that was what they meant. The house itself was nice, too nice honestly. It sat alone near the edge of a wooded neighborhood, far enough from the main road that the silence felt heavier than normal. The kind of place where every sound inside the house suddenly matters. My girlfriend, Rachel, loved it immediately. I remember her saying it felt peaceful. That word stopped making sense after the first night. The hallway upstairs had 3 doors: our bedroom, the bathroom, and the locked room. The keypad on the door was old and scratched up like someone had used it constantly for years. No lights on it, no sound, just dead. At some point during the evening, Rachel asked if I thought maybe the owner used it remotely somehow. I joked that maybe someone was staying inside it. She laughed. That stopped being funny around 2 a.m. I woke up because the hallway light was on. At first, I thought Rachel had gotten up to use the bathroom, but she was still asleep beside me. I sat there for a second, staring through the slightly open bedroom door. The hallway light shouldn't have been on. We turned everything off before bed. I got up slowly and walked toward the hallway. The light buzzed softly overhead, and that's when I noticed the locked room door was open. Not fully, just enough to reveal darkness inside. I stopped immediately. Something about it felt wrong. Not dangerous, just wrong. Like seeing a front door open when you know you locked it. I stood there for a few seconds, waiting to hear movement inside. Nothing. Eventually, I walked closer. The air felt colder near the doorway. I reached the door and looked inside. It was empty. Mostly. There was an old bed frame against one wall, a lamp in the corner, dust everywhere. The room looked abandoned, but the lamp was on. A weak yellow light. I stared at it, trying to remember if it had been there earlier. I was almost positive the room had been completely dark. Then I noticed something else. There were no windows. The room shouldn't have felt that cold. I backed away slowly and pulled the door shut again. The keypad still looked dead. No lights, no numbers, nothing. The next morning, I asked the owner about it through the app. He responded almost immediately. Please keep that room closed. That was it. No explanation. Rachel thought it was creepy, but not enough to ruin the trip. We spent the day hiking nearby and tried not to think about it. By nighttime, things felt normal again, until we went upstairs. The hallway light was already on. I stopped halfway up the stairs. Rachel noticed too. Neither of us said anything for a second. Then we both looked at the locked room. The door was closed, but light was visible underneath it, a thin yellow line crossing the floor. Rachel whispered, "Was that there before?" I didn't answer, because I honestly didn't know. I walked toward it slowly. The closer I got, the more I noticed a sound. Not movement, breathing, very soft. Inside the room, I froze. Rachel grabbed my arm immediately. "You hear that?" I nodded slowly. The breathing stopped. Complete silence. Then the lamp inside clicked off. The line of light disappeared from beneath the door. Rachel wanted to leave right then. I should have listened. Instead, I convinced both of us we were overreacting. Old house, old pipes. Old electrical system, that's what I kept saying. But I didn't really believe it anymore. That night, I barely slept. Every small sound in the hallway woke me up. At some point, I heard something scrape softly across the floor upstairs, not inside our room, out in the hallway. Then another sound, closer. A slow step. I sat upright immediately. Rachel was awake too. We both stared toward the bedroom door. Another step, slow, heavy, directly outside. Then it stopped. The silence afterward felt worse than the sound itself. I grabbed my phone and turned the flashlight on. The hallway outside was empty, but the locked room door was open again, wider this time, and the lamp inside was on. I could see more of the room now. The bed, the walls, the floor. Something had changed. The bed wasn't against the wall anymore. It was facing the doorway, facing us. Rachel whispered, "No." I started shaking before I even realized it, because the room didn't look abandoned anymore. It looked used. The sheets were gone before. Now there were blankets. The lamp looked cleaner. The dust was gone, and something was sitting on the bed. At first, I thought it was a pile of clothes, then it moved slightly. I slammed the bedroom door shut immediately. Rachel started crying. We heard movement in the hallway right after. Fast movement, not walking, like someone crossing the hallway quickly. Then 3 knocks, directly on our bedroom door. Slow, even, deliberate. I remember staring at the handle, waiting for it to move. Another knock, then silence. We didn't open the door, didn't speak, didn't move. Around sunrise, the hallway finally went quiet again. The moment sunlight came through the windows, we grabbed our bags and left. We never went back upstairs, never checked the room again. A few hours later, after we were already driving home, the owner finally responded to my last message. I had asked him what was inside that room. His reply was short. There wasn't supposed to be a room upstairs. Story 2. The photos. The first photo was easy to ignore. That's the part that bothers me now, because looking back, it should have ended the trip immediately. The Airbnb was a lake house about 2 hours outside the city. Small, quiet, the kind of place people rent to disconnect for a weekend. My friend Nolan found it online. Cheap price, good reviews, no close neighbors. At the time, that sounded perfect. The house itself felt normal when we arrived. Old furniture, wood floors, a fireplace. Nothing strange. We unpacked, ordered food, and spent most of the evening outside near the water. It wasn't until later that night that Nolan found the picture. He was looking through drawers in the living room trying to find batteries for the TV remote when he suddenly went quiet. Then he said, "Why is this here?" I walked over. He was holding a Polaroid. The photo showed the lake behind the house. At first, I didn't understand what he meant. Then I noticed us, me and Nolan, standing near the dock, the exact clothes we were wearing, the exact position we had been in earlier that day. The photo had been taken from inside the house, through the back window. Neither of us spoke for a second. Then Nolan laughed nervously and said maybe the owner took it earlier somehow, but that didn't make sense. We had arrived less than 4 hours ago, and we never saw anyone. Still, we convinced ourselves there had to be an explanation. That stopped working after the second photo appeared. We found that one the next morning. It was sitting on the kitchen counter, face down. Neither of us touched it immediately. Something about it felt intentional, like it had been left there for us to notice. When I finally picked it up, my stomach dropped instantly. It showed the upstairs hallway, taken during the night. Our bedroom door was open slightly, and Nolan was standing inside the doorway, asleep. I looked at him immediately. He looked just as pale, because he remembered waking up briefly during the night. He thought he heard movement upstairs, but he never got out of bed, which meant someone else took that picture. Inside the house, while we were sleeping, we searched the entire place after that. Every room, closets, outside. Nothing. No signs of forced entry. No hidden cameras. Nothing stolen. The owner stopped responding to messages completely. That afternoon, we seriously talked about leaving. But it felt stupid to abandon the trip over pictures. Creepy pictures, but still just pictures. So we stayed one more night. Worst decision we made. That evening started normal again. Almost too normal. We watched TV, made food, tried not to think about the photos. Then Nolan noticed something. There were more Polaroids now. 3 of them, lined up on the bookshelf. None of us had placed them there. The first showed me asleep on the couch earlier that evening. The second showed Nolan in the kitchen. The third showed both of us standing in the living room, taken from the upstairs balcony. The problem was, we had never seen anyone upstairs. I remember looking toward the second floor slowly. The hallway above us was dark, completely still. Then we heard a floorboard creak right above us. Nolan stood up immediately. Someone's up there. I grabbed the fireplace poker without even thinking. We moved upstairs slowly together. Every light upstairs was off. The hallway stretched ahead of us in complete darkness. Then another creak, closer this time. I pointed my flashlight toward the end of the hallway. Nothing there. But one of the bedroom doors was open now. It hadn't been earlier. The room inside was dark. Nolan whispered, "Did you hear that?" I nodded, because something had just moved inside the room. Not footsteps, more like fabric shifting, like someone adjusting position. We should have left right then. Instead, we walked closer. I remember the feeling getting worse with every step, like the house wanted us upstairs. The closer we got to the doorway, the colder the air became. Then Nolan suddenly stopped walking. I looked back at him. He was staring at the wall beside the door, covered in Polaroids, dozens of them, some old, some new. All of people inside the house, sleeping, eating, watching TV, and near the center, pictures of us, taken only hours earlier. The last one had been taken recently, very recently, because it showed both of us standing in the hallway, looking at the photos. I felt my stomach drop instantly. That meant whoever took it was still close. Then something moved inside the room, fast, right beside the doorway. Nolan backed up immediately. I pointed the flashlight toward it and caught movement disappearing deeper into the darkness. We ran downstairs immediately after that. Didn't pack, didn't stop, just grabbed our keys and left. The worst part happened later, when we were halfway home. Nolan checked his jacket pocket and found one last Polaroid folded inside. Neither of us had seen it before. It showed my car driving away from the house, taken from behind, from the middle of the road. Story 3. Upstairs, the footsteps started the first night. At first, they sounded normal enough that I almost ignored them completely. Just slow movement upstairs, floorboards creaking, weight shifting, the kind of sounds old houses make. Except we rented the entire place. There wasn't supposed to be anyone upstairs. The Airbnb sat at the edge of a small mountain town. Huge old house, cheap price, bad signal, no nearby neighbors. Everything about it should have felt sketchy from the start. But my friends only cared that it was cheap enough for the weekend. There were 4 of us total. Me, Tyler, Emma, and Chris. The owner never met us in person. He only sent a message saying, "Please don't go upstairs after midnight." That should have been enough. But by the second night, nobody was laughing about it anymore. The first footsteps happened around 1 a.m. I was still awake downstairs watching TV when I heard movement directly above me. Slow pacing, back and forth. At first I assumed one of my friends was awake. Then I realized all three of them were asleep in the living room behind me. I muted the TV. The footsteps continued, one side of the ceiling to the other, then stopping, then starting again. I stared upward, trying to figure out where exactly the sound was coming from. Then something scraped heavily across the floor upstairs. Not small movement, furniture. I stood up immediately. The sound stopped the second I moved. Complete silence. I waited. Nothing else happened. The next morning I mentioned it during breakfast. Nobody laughed, because Emma heard it too. She thought someone was walking directly outside her bedroom door during the night. Chris tried to rationalize it. Old house, temperature changes, wood settling. But even he sounded unsure. That night, things got worse. The footsteps started earlier. This time, everyone heard them. Back and forth above us. Slow. Heavy. The sound moved across the ceiling in a perfect line, then stopped directly above the stairs. Silence. Tyler finally said, "Okay, screw this." He grabbed a flashlight and started toward the staircase. Emma immediately told him not to go up there. He laughed, still went. The staircase creaked loudly under his weight. We followed behind him slowly. The second floor hallway was dark, except for one light at the far end. A weak yellow glow coming from a partially open room. The footsteps had stopped completely now. Tyler whispered, "You guys hear that?" At first I didn't, then I noticed it, breathing, very slow, inside the room with the light. We moved closer carefully. The hallway floor creaked under us. The breathing stopped immediately. Tyler pushed the door open, slightly wider. The room was empty. Old furniture, dust, nothing else. But the bed in the center of the room looked wrong. The blankets were pressed down slightly, like someone had just stood up from it. Emma wanted to leave immediately. Honestly, I did too. But Tyler kept insisting someone had probably broken into the house. So we searched the upstairs. Every room, nothing. No person, no signs of forced entry. No open windows, nothing. By the third night, nobody wanted to sleep upstairs anymore. We all stayed downstairs together. Every light on, TV running, trying to act normal. Around 2 a.m., the footsteps started again. But this time, they weren't upstairs. They were on the stairs themselves, slow, one step at a time. Coming down. Nobody spoke. We all just stared toward the staircase. Another step, then another. The wood creaked heavily under the weight. Halfway down now. Then it stopped. I remember feeling frozen in place, because whatever was on the stairs was standing just out of sight around the corner. Then we heard it inhale, long, wet, close. Emma started crying immediately. Chris grabbed his keys. Tyler finally looked scared for the first time all weekend. Then another step, closer. The staircase groaned loudly. I could see part of the railing moving slightly, like something heavy had just shifted its weight against it. Tyler suddenly ran for the front door. The moment he moved, something sprinted down the stairs. Not footsteps anymore. Full speed, violent. The entire staircase shook. We ran immediately. I remember hearing something slam against the wall behind us as we reached the door. Chris struggled with the lock for a second, longest second of my life. Then the door finally opened. We got outside and ran to the car. As we pulled away, I looked back at the second floor window. Someone was standing there, watching us leave. The owner messaged us 20 minutes later. Only one sentence. "You stayed downstairs after midnight, didn't you?"